In the summer of 1518, a woman stepped into a street in Strasbourg and began to dance. There was no music, no celebration, and according to the surviving accounts, she did not seem to be dancing by choice. Her name has come down to us as Frau Trophäa. For hours she twisted, stepped, and turned beneath the July sun. Her husband reportedly begged her to stop. She continued until exhaustion forced her to collapse, but the next morning she began again. Then something even stranger happened. Other people joined her. Strasbourg was then a prosperous city within the Holy Roman Empire in what is now eastern France, but life for many of its residents was anything but secure. Disease, failed harvests, hunger, and religious fear had placed enormous pressure on the population. Against that background, the sight of one woman dancing uncontrollably was disturbing enough. Within days, roughly 30 people were said to be moving through the streets in the same frantic way. They did not appear joyful. Accounts describe people dancing for long periods, sometimes until their feet were swollen and their bodies gave out. The outbreak became known as St. Vitus's dance. Many people believed the dancers had been cursed by St. Vitus, a Christian martyr who, according to local folklore, could punish sinners by forcing their bodies into uncontrollable motion. The city's authorities rejected the idea that the cause was supernatural. Their physicians offered a medical explanation instead. The dancers, they said, were suffering from overheated blood, and the recommended treatment was astonishing. They should be allowed to keep dancing until the sickness burned itself out. The council cleared spaces for them. Platforms were constructed in public markets, and guild halls were opened as temporary dance floors. Musicians were hired to play drums, pipes, fiddles, and horns. Healthy dancers were even brought in to encourage the afflicted to continue. The authorities believed they were helping. Instead, the crisis grew. The public stages attracted crowds. The music continued. More people began dancing. By August, one chronicle claimed that as many as 400 residents had been affected. Some later accounts say people collapsed and died from exhaustion, dehydration, or other medical emergencies. But the exact death toll is disputed, and some of the most dramatic numbers come from sources written after the event. Whatever the true number, the city clearly believed it was facing a serious emergency. The council reversed its policy. The stages were dismantled. Public dancing was restricted, and most music was banned. Those still affected were taken out of Strasbourg to a shrine associated with St. Vitus. There, priests performed religious rituals. The dancers were given red shoes marked with crosses, sprinkled with holy water, and led through ceremonies intended to lift the curse. By late August or early September, the outbreak had ended. No one knows exactly why. For centuries, historians and doctors have tried to explain what happened. One theory blames ergot, a poisonous fungus that can grow on rye. Ergot poisoning can cause hallucinations and convulsions, making it sound like a possible explanation, but it also causes severe illness and restricts blood flow. It is difficult to imagine hundreds of poisoned people remaining physically capable of coordinated dancing for days. Today, one of the leading explanations is a mass psychogenic illness. This occurs when real physical symptoms spread through a group without a clear infectious or toxic cause, often during periods of intense fear and social stress. The people of Strasbourg had endured hunger, disease, and repeated warnings of divine punishment. They also lived in a culture where the curse of St. Vitus was considered real. Under those conditions, fear may not simply have influenced how people interpreted the dancing, it may have helped spread it. But that explanation cannot be proven. The surviving evidence is incomplete. Some accounts were written years later, and the people who experienced the outbreak understood the human mind and body very differently from us. What is certain is that Strasbourg's authorities recorded a real public crisis involving compulsive dancing, musicians, public stages, religious rituals, and a city struggling to make the movement stop. It began with one woman in a street, then dozens followed, then perhaps hundreds. For more than a month, an invisible force seemed to pass from person to person, turning fear into movement and movement into panic. Whether the cause was illness, belief, unbearable stress, or some combination of all three, the dancing plague of 1518 remains one of history's strangest unsolved events. And more than 500 years later, we still do not know what made them dance. Subscribe to Delta Archives for more journeys into history's strangest mysteries, from forgotten civilizations to the unexplained depths of space.